We're always hearing about the incredible future that's just around the corner, right? A dazzling, seamless world of tech designed to make our lives perfect. But what if there's a hidden cost to all this progress? Let's dive in.
We're promised this world of just effortless efficiency. You've got smart cities that know what we need before we do, cars that drive themselves, and even AI companions that feel like lifelong friends. The whole idea is a future that's smarter, faster, and way more connected.
And it doesn't stop there, not by a long shot. We're talking about a future where you can zip across the globe in minutes, upgrade your body to get past biological limits, and hey, even merge your mind with a machine. It all feels so close, so inevitable, like a glittering tech utopia is right there for the taking.
But this is the question, isn't it? This is where we pivot from that dazzling dream to a much more disorienting reality. What if the speed of the future's arrival is the one thing we haven't really thought about? See, the core issue here isn't the tech itself. It's the pace, it's the speed. We are living through an absolutely unprecedented acceleration of change. It's this massive social force that's reshaping our world and our minds faster than ever before in all of human history. Okay, so this slide just lays it out perfectly. For thousands and thousands of years, humanity barely broke 20 miles per hour. Then, in less than a single century, we rocketed from 100 to 18,000. See that vertical leap at the very end? That's the pattern. And it's happening in every field, not just how we get around. And to put this into perspective, get this. Biologist Julian Huxley figured out that the tempo of human evolution is now a staggering 100,000 times faster than it was in pre-human times. Think of it like this. If all of evolutionary history was a single 24-hour day, our entire modern era of change would be happening in the final, frantic microsecond before midnight. And this isn't some new idea. Experts like John Diebold saw this coming decades ago. They knew that this wasn't just another industrial revolution. It was something way bigger, a fundamental shift in the entire human experience. So what's the direct psychological fallout from all this speed? Well, it creates a state that the futurist Alvin Toffler called transience. And believe me, it changes everything. Let's break that down. Transience is basically the rate of turnover in our lives. Think about it. Our relationships with everything that gives our life structure, our stuff, our communities, our jobs, even our friends, they're all becoming more and more temporary. You don't have to look any further than your local grocery store. Over half the stuff on the shelves didn't even exist a decade ago. Products that used to stick around for generations now have a shelf life of months, sometimes even just weeks. And this leads us straight into what Toffler called the throwaway society. It's a culture built on disposability, on things not being meant to last. Sure, it started with little things like ballpoint pens and paper plates, but now it's our cars, our clothes, even our houses, whose average lifespans have shrunk like crazy. This massive shift is totally reshaping how we work too. The old organization man who'd worked for one company his whole life has been replaced by the associative man, a kind of corporate gypsy who bounces from project to project, team to team. In this world, being adaptable is the new loyalty, and relationships are temporary by design. So when you combine this incredible, off-the-charts acceleration with a world where everything feels temporary, you get a really powerful and disorienting force. And this brings us to the human condition that pretty much defines our modern era. So what's the end result of all this? Really, what happens when a biological creature with a finite capacity for change gets slammed with an infinite demand for change? The answer is future shock. And this is a very real psychological state. It's not about being afraid of the future. No, it's the distress that comes from the future arriving before you're ready for it. You could call it the disease of change. And I'm willing to bet some of these symptoms sound a little familiar. That feeling of being dazed, confused, like reality itself is kind of wobbly, the anxiety, the exhaustion, and sometimes, just a complete shutdown. That feeling of apathy where you just can't process one more thing. This quote from Toffler just nails it. We're not infinitely resilient. We are a biosystem, a biological creature made of flesh and blood, and we have a limited capacity for change. When you overwhelm that capacity, we basically go into a state of psychological bankruptcy. Okay, but this isn't a forecast of doom and gloom. Not at all. Understanding the problem is always the first step toward fixing it. We can actually develop strategies, both for ourselves and as a society, to help us navigate this new world and, Well, to tame the future. So, the goal here isn't to slam on the brakes on progress. That's impossible, and frankly, it's not a good idea. The real key is learning how to manage the flow of change in our own lives, to find a pace that works for us, and to build in some buffers against all that stress. On a personal level, we can create what Toffler called stability zones, basically anchors in the storm of change. And it can be simple stuff, like keeping your car for an extra year, not chasing every single new fashion trend, putting down deeper roots in your community, or just making a real effort to nurture those old friendships that keep you grounded. But of course, personal tricks aren't enough. As a whole society, we need to start designing systems that act as future shock absorbers. Things like helping people with gradual career changes instead of just abrupt layoffs, or creating education that prepares people for the psychological demands of tomorrow, not just the technical skills. And that leaves us with this one last really crucial thought. We talk about the future like it's this thing that just happens to us, but it's not. Technology doesn't have its own agenda. We're the ones driving this thing. So the real question isn't what the future will look like, but how will we choose to design a future that is not only amazingly advanced, but also humanly paced?